Good afternoon or good evening to my listeners, wherever you are watching from any part of the universe of the earth. You are welcome to this episode in our continuing series on this our channel, African Science and Tech Review. We are still on the introduction to African Science and Tech Review. And today, we are continuing our discussions with respect to examining the three knowledge bases: science, theology, and philosophy, and their interactions. Today, we are going to use some visuals, some schematic diagrams, some sketches to really explain the discussions. And in subsequent episodes, we are going to be using diagrams so that there will be the listeners will be able to understand deeply and thoroughly all the presentations. So today we are just looking at the science, technology, and philosophy, as I've said. Science, theology, and philosophy. Then we are also going to look into how we can classify the various activities and phenomena that human beings have been involved in or are involved in from birth to death. And it's a rough classification. We are classifying these activities into two. And of course, it can be extended to three. And the two are: one, subconscious phenomena, and then the conscious phenomena. By saying subconscious, we mean this. We are actually referring to subconscious phenomena, conscious phenomena, and then the unconscious phenomena. For instance, when we talk about the unconscious phenomena, we can refer to something like dream. Subconscious phenomena can refer to something like dream experience, which of course, in the course of the presentation, we classify it under conscious phenomena, under unconscious phenomena, in the sense that we want us to see dream as semi-death. We react there through the dream experience. But classically, from the perspective of psychology, dreams are classified as subconscious phenomena. We also look into what we call the conscious phenomena. For instance, when you talk about prayer, making supplication, wishing something, either to an invisible being or you are just wishing that something should come to pass. That could be a conscious phenomenon, and it could also be an unconscious or semi-conscious, subconscious phenomenon. And when we talk about unconscious phenomena, we are talking about phenomena that we literally don't have control over, like the issue of self-birth and death. So these are examples, and we are going to, as I said earlier, use illustrations so that we can drive home what we have been presenting and what we are going to present today. Thank you very much. We continue with the interactions among science, theology, and philosophy, which we regard as the three big knowledge bases. In the previous video, the previous episode, we briefly look at the three knowledge bases: science, theology, and philosophy. In this present episode, where we are looking at the various activities of humans from birth to death. We know that before, when you consider the existence of humans, the existence starts with the birth. Then there are a lot of activities before the death. Even in this episode, We are not going to look in details into all the various activities that are between the birth period and the death period. Each of them will be reviewed in subsequent videos because we don't want to module everything together. We want to pick each of the various items, various concepts within the purview of our channel and examine them in depth one by one. So we still start with the interactions among the three knowledge bases. In the previous video, we mentioned the science, the theology, and the philosophy. But we are now presenting a graphical interaction among the three. We can see the science here, we can see the theology, and we can see the philosophy. And we can take note of these arrows. These are bidirectional arrows. They move both ways, left ways and right ways. For instance, when we look at this arrow, we can talk about the science of theology. We can also talk about the theology of science. All these we are going to share and examine in details in subsequent episodes. When we get here also, we can talk about the theology of philosophy. We can also talk about the philosophy of theology. Here, which is also, you can see the bidirectional arrow, the arrow that moves towards the right and to the left. We can talk about the science of philosophy and the philosophy of science. Now let's quickly just present a simple definition with respect to the mutual interactions that we have here. When we talk about the science of theology, we are talking with respect to the fact that even in theology, which we have explained, which we know is based primarily on faith, I believe in this thing, another person believes in this concept. We can still talk about the concept of science there, because the whole idea behind this channel is to make us see that even though they look distinct, but they are still interrelated. Earlier we mentioned the concept of the natural philosophy, that we all started the concept of inquiry into nature, started with natural philosophy, when all these various knowledge bases, all the various aspects of life were studied under natural philosophy. We talked about Plato, talked about Aristotle, and so on and so forth. Socrates, the Greek philosophers. So the science of theology is saying that we want to look at theology, even though it is based on faith. We are trying to generalize knowledge so that we can have what can be called universal truth. Truth that is independent of location, is independent of geographical location, is independent of tribe, is independent of age, is independent of experience, something that we can all agree together, because the discord that we have in the world is based primarily on the fact that there is no understanding, proper understanding of all these three knowledge bases. So, because everyone claims that I believe in this, another person claims I believe. We are all entitled to our beliefs. In fact, philosophy allows that. Even the concept of theology allows that. But what we are trying to establish in this channel is that even when you believe in something, you should be able to have some basis, some principles for you to understand what you believe. It may even help in course of discussion, in course of debates with colleagues, with peers, and so on and so forth. So the science of theology, we know science is based on experiment. It's just talking with respect to the fact that we can isolate some concepts in theology and look at those concepts from the purview of science. That is the simple explanation. The same thing, when we look at it, the arrow going downwards, we can talk about the theology of science. We know science is based on experiments and is based on facts. What the arrow is showing is that we can actually discuss science within the purview of theology. And many of the ancient, the historical books, the holy books, share insight into some of the scientific aspects that are embedded in the holy books. We can also talk about the theological aspects that are embedded in science. We all know the concept of creation and evolution. This is an issue, a concept that is well researched in. We are going to look at it, just like we said, philosophy. There is no yes or no answer, no true or false, but we want to have a basis for our discussion, for whatever we believe in. Similarly, we can talk about the theology of philosophy. We know philosophy is based on truth. You want to establish that, I believe in something. Then how do you establish this truth? Philosophers have gone deep to state some of the axioms, some of the rules that can assist someone to understand what one believes in. So we can talk about the theology involved, in the sense that you can talk about philosophy depending on one's belief. He believes in the supreme being. It's a creation of a supreme being. That is the concept. So you can talk of the theology behind philosophy. And we can also talk about the philosophy of theology. Theology exists, but what are the principles of philosophy that we can use to digest, to analyze theology? Otherwise, the philosophy of theology is often referred to as the philosophy of religion, but it goes beyond religion. We can also talk about the science of philosophy. Philosophy is based on logic. In fact, the basis of science is philosophy. The principles of logic that have been established in philosophy help science in performing the experiments to determine what is truth. So we can talk about the science behind the philosophy. We can also talk about the philosophy behind science. So these can be considered as the various mutual interactions among what we regard as the three big knowledge bases: science, theology, and philosophy. As we can see, science to theology, theology to science, theology to philosophy, philosophy to theology, philosophy to science, science to philosophy. In our subsequent videos, we are going to be examining so many things. We are going to be bringing out concepts one by one and dissecting them. So in this episode, we are looking at considering the activities that, a rough classification of the activities that human beings pass through or involve themselves in from birth to death. We are trying to look at it by classifying the phenomena which affect humans into two. We call those the phenomena in which the human conscious or unconscious state is involved. And then we have one in which humans are essentially unconscious. We have to take note of the fact that it's a rough classification. As we go down the ladder, we will see that even what we classify as conscious may actually be subconscious or unconscious. And also, the classification depends on various perspectives. For instance, when we get to down, we will see with respect to the dream experience is usually considered subconscious. But we have decided to classify it otherwise. So, the two basic classifications which, according to this episode, according to this channel, we are using. In subsequent editions, we might use different other classifications. But here, we are classifying based on the subconscious state of reasoning of human beings and the unconscious state of reasoning. Phenomena in which humans can be said to be conscious of or subconscious of while the phenomena are happening, or those that humans may be considered to be unconscious of while the phenomena are occurring. So, we want to see the subconscious state of reasoning first. Of course, the subconscious, we could have broken the classification into three. The conscious, the subconscious, and unconscious. But we just decided to just limit to two. In subsequent videos, we might have cause to break into three, but we're just using two here so that we don't have too many partitions. So, we are looking at the subconscious state first of reasoning. That is, phenomena in which humans can be considered to be in subconscious states while the phenomena are happening. We can look at the concept of creation and evolution. By looking at it, we are just talking about the fact that the humans believe about creation and evolution, believe that humans are in a conscious state to decide whether they are going to embrace creation, embrace evolution. It's a very hot topic, and it has piqued science, which primarily advocates evolution, against theology, which advocates creation. The course of this channel, the course of presentation, we will see that there is really not more diversities. We can find a common ground between belief in creation as propounded by theologians and religious people and belief in evolution. We can also talk about science, fiction, and reality. Here we are just referring to the conscious state or subconscious with respect to science, fiction, and reality, that you are conscious enough or subconscious enough to be able to determine what is real and what is mere fiction. Of course, the concept of fiction, science fiction, and reality, in one of the subsequent videos, we are going to look at it in detail. In fact, each and every sub-classification that we have here, we are going to look at them in depth in subsequent videos. So we know, for instance, the origin, when we talk about science fiction, many of the activities that have been realized in present-day world, they existed first in the realms of science fiction. A classic example is when you talk about the aeroplane that was invented by the Wright brothers around the early 1900s. Of course, it was thought that people, they just studied the behavior of birds flying in the air. And the idea came that, can we design a machine that can also disobey the law of gravity and that can be flying like that? And it started as an experiment, and with innovation, gradually we can have the present state aircraft that we have, jumbo aircrafts, and so on and so forth. So many other concepts within the realms of science fiction, they have come to reality. In fact, we have come to a stage that we can say that any concept that exists in science fiction has the potential of becoming realizable in the world. Science has advanced in so many areas. When we focus later on, when we focus in subsequent videos, we focus on science fiction, we are going to look critically at some detailed examples on that. And of course, prayer also. We know that prayer, we consider prayer to be in that anyone who is praying, who is in the praying mode, is in a conscious state or unconscious state. One can be praying while you are conscious about it. You can also be praying while we are in a subconscious state. And that is the essence of this channel, to make us to know what we have known before and to re-examine what we have actually known, but we didn't know that we have known. So, one can pray without necessarily involve in formal activities, formal ritual. By your thoughts, you are also praying. Prayer involves, you are just trying to make a request. You want to communicate with a supreme being. So it can be conscious, it can be subconscious. Of course, it depends on the individual, because your ability to communicate also depends on your background knowledge, your understanding of the workings of the universe, some of which this channel will make us to understand. When you see someone who is not necessarily shouting, don't think that the person is not praying. And the person who is shouting, you don't need to condemn the person who is shouting while praying. So, both are communicating, but everything depends on the individual. If you have enjoyed this video, kindly like, share, and subscribe. And also, kindly press the notification button so that when new editions are uploaded, you will be notified in real time. We welcome your comments on this episode and any of the previous and subsequent episodes. We want to say that as much as possible, we will try to reply your comments. We appreciate you for joining this channel. Thank you very much. If you have any particular topic that you want us to consider, please also feel free to share. We will look at it. But I want to assure you that there are several interesting videos that will be uploaded that concern us all as human beings, irrespective of where our location, our religion, our profession, our ethnic or racial background, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much.